You know, another thing that you write about in Open When is just kind of chronic comparison and how we look around at the world around us and then we tell ourselves, I'm less than, I'm never going to make that money, I'm never going to be this, I'm never going to be that, nothing I ever do is right. And you're using comparison as a way to beat yourself down. And you have this quote in the book that I freaking love. Resentment is not a reflection of what the world owes you. It is a sign of what you need to work on. What does that mean?
So for a lot of people, when they feel resentment, the tendency is to look at the person who you feel is making you feel that way, right? That they're doing something wrong, or they're overstepping the mark, or they're breaching your boundaries. And again, for me, that's very prey rather than predator, right? That's the sense of, it's being done to me, and therefore I don't have control of that feeling. And resentment will just destroy a relationship if you allow it to continue. And the only real way to kind of respond to resentment is looking at what it's telling you. And it's often that you've not been putting healthy boundaries in place to prevent that. Or maybe it's a gratitude problem. So another sort of real great remedy for resentment is gratitude, and looking at, maybe you're being hard on the other person, and maybe you're taking them for granted, and maybe there's other things to feel grateful for in that relationship. But often it's that sense of you've allowed certain barriers to be breached, or certain healthy boundaries to be breached and walked over, and then you're going to be bitter about it, as opposed to taking responsibility for holding them up and doing the really difficult thing, but the thing that's going to create that kind of healthy experience in your relationship again.
Based on the millions of people that follow you and your own private practice, can you give me an example of how that works? Like something that people write in are really struggling about comparison, or whether it's their body to somebody else, or that they're not married yet, or just something that you're seeing a lot of, so that we can ground that advice in an example?
Do you know what? Something I see a lot of, not necessarily in therapy anymore, but just in real life, is when people start to compare themselves to the wrong people. So when you start to compare yourself to your friends, and it just destroys the friendship. Because you set yourself up where you could have been a team and two people that walk through life together and support each other. Suddenly you put a scoreboard between you, which means that their victories mean some sort of loss for you, and vice versa. Then you can't share your personal victories because they see it as a threat. And so then your conversations are censored between you. There's things you can't say. There's, or even when you're telling them about something that's gone wrong for you, or something hard that you're dealing with, they then, that's a bid for connection, right? A bid for support. But they'll come back with, oh, well, I had something worse, And so suddenly you're in this competition with the person who you're supposed to support, and they're supposed to support you back. And so anytime that you compare yourself to someone that you're in a decent relationship with, is bad news. And that's often what I talk about in the book about the social comparison stuff is, online, people will tell you, just stop comparing yourself to other people. And that is impossible, right? Because we're human beings. Often the problem is not that you're comparing, it's that you're making the wrong comparisons that's going to lead you down the wrong path.
How do you stop yourself from doing it? So if comparison's normal and you say, because I was really intrigued and you're like, you're making the wrong comparisons. Who are the right comparisons to?
So let's say you want to get better at something, right? So let's say you want to do better at tennis, then comparing yourself to, one of the greats is, when you're just starting out, it's probably really unhelpful. But also what you want to do is compare yourself to someone who is going to help you get to where you need to go. So let's say you want to improve your backhand, and there's someone at the local club who does that really well. And they might be a few steps ahead of you in their journey. But what you can do there is you can look at that and learn from that, what they do well. So you've got to be really concrete it's got to be very separate. So not comparing personalities or types or self-worth. You're comparing something that is actually going to be helpful for you in your path with what you want to do well at. So you can see how that could be a great learning experience.
Of course. Right? And I love that you said be specific, because if you're saying who's somebody that's a couple steps ahead and there's a specific thing that I want to get better at.
Yeah.
And when you compare yourself to somebody like that in that narrow framing, now it becomes a tool instead of it becoming torturous to you.
When we can use that sort of ability to compare in a way that's really constructive, then it can really go places and your life starts to shift in this really positive way.